Welcome into WagerTalk's Last Call. I'm Meghan Payton. This is the show that gets you all involved. It's the YouTube live experience, we're calling it. Head over to the YouTube comments, get your questions in. It's all about last minute bets, the games that are on the slate for tonight. And as always, we have a great panel joining us to break down all of the action, plenty of sports, plenty of ways to get some money tonight. Andy Lang, prop god, trendsetter, and stat master, Ralph Michaels, NBA expert and NHL expert, Skee Profit. All three will be joining us to break down some action here. Only two games on the slate for the NBA tonight because it is opening day for MLB. Happy opening day for all who celebrate in baseball. We have 5 games already wrapped up today, a few more on right now and later tonight. I already got my plus 750 futures bet on Dodgers to win the World Series. We also have some March Madness action. We're going to dive deeper into this on Saturday, so make sure you come and join us at 11 a.m. Eastern, break down some Final Four action. Let's bring in our first guest, which is Andy Lang, prop god. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to talk some NBA with you in a little bit. Everything's been great. You've got a 5% up tonight. You've been plus 115 units in 2023. What do you have going on at WagerTalk.com?
Well, yeah, I mean, Megan, like you said, it's opening day in baseball. I mean, one of the best days of the year. MLB season is upon us. I couldn't be more excited. Really, really looking forward to the next 9 months of grinding away. So, what do I have? What do we have up? Well, we have a 5% UFC play that is up for next week, so you can grab that. We have a 5% soccer play that is up for this weekend, and it's been an incredible run. We're plus 115 units for the year, as you mentioned. We're number one in quite a few sports, but yeah, only 2 NBA games, but one of them, man, I don't know if it gets much bigger than Celtics and Bucks, and it looks like they are playing their entire starting unit. So this is all the stars are shining tonight. So this could be a really really interesting regular season game here as we wind down. Look forward to the playoffs.
It's a perfect way to get all of America to watch one game all at once. I felt your nose growing a little bit when you were talking about the MLB upcoming action for the next 9 months. I'll leave it at that. Everyone, right now, before we get into Andy's breakdown of Celtics versus Bucks, head over and ask any NBA questions you want for Andy, any future UFC. I know we don't have any UFC this weekend, but this is the time to head over and get Andy's thoughts on whatever you are looking at. Let's talk Boston Celtics at Milwaukee Bucks, two of the top teams in the East. The Bucks are up 3 wins. This is a huge game. Tip off at 7:30 Eastern. Bucks minus 2.5, and the totals at 237.5. This is a head-to-head tiebreaker too, so it's essentially worth 2 games. Very, very important. The Bucks have been hot right now. They're coming off a back-to-back. I don't know how much that's going to impact them. They knew that this was a more important game, the Boston Celtics team, for playoff implications. How are you breaking this one down, Andy?
I'm actually kind of surprised the Celtics and the Bucks are going all in on this one. I mean, the Celtics need to do a lot if they want to catch the Bucks. If they lose tonight, then they now they're done worrying about the Bucks, and now they got to look at the 76ers. So I'm kind of surprised that we're going to get everybody playing tonight, but it does make it a little bit easier for us to handicap. I think you're going to get a playoff type atmosphere, and a lot of times these playoff atmosphere games go under. Guys are slowing up the pace. You're seeing a much more energetic kind of defense in these games, and you've got Marcus Smart who's playing, and his defense has been absolutely terrible this year. But this is the kind of game that Marcus Smart traditionally really gets up for. And then you've got the really good defense of Drew Holiday, which he's just been incredible this year. I mean, you could argue this is one of Drew Holiday's best years, if not the best. Then you've got Giannis and Lopez inside. You've got Tatum and Brown. They should be giving 100% effort. So I think the unders are a sneaky way to go with this one because as good on offense as these teams are, when they're playing 100% defense, they are really, really good. So the way I'm attacking this game is with some player props, and I'm going to go with some unders. And the first is the aforementioned Marcus Smart. He is just not getting it done with his points, rebounds, and assists, and you can get an under at 19.5. He's just, I don't know why his struggles on offense are so exasperated this year. I don't know if it's the addition of Derek White's improvement or Malcolm Brogdon, but he's been a cash cow machine on the under. And we're looking at Marcus Smart, who's averaging like 1.8 rebounds recently. He's just not getting to the free throw line. He's very hit or miss from 3 point land, as he always has been. But when you look at some of his recent points, rebounds, and assists, you're just seeing that he's not getting it done in any category, let alone three of them. So, recently he had a 14.5 assist game. Well, that's still only 19. So he got under this 19 and a half. He had a 6 point game against the Pacers, where he was only 2 of 3 from the field. Traditionally, he really struggles against elite point guards with good defense, and that's Drew Holiday. So I think we're going to look at Marcus Smart to be much more of a facilitator. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the crunch time minutes go to Derek White, who, quite frankly, has just been better offensively in the fourth quarter. So I know Marcus Smart is much more of the glue guy, but for tonight, I think his stats just aren't going to be there. So I take Marcus Smart under. And then the other one that I'm going to take an under is Bobby Portis under his points, rebounds, and assists. He's at 18 and a half. His stats, when you look at him, you also have to look at when did Giannis play. And when Giannis doesn't play or Lopez doesn't play, a lot of times Bobby Portis gets the start. Well, he's not in the starting lineup. He is coming off the bench. And, look no further than the last game against Boston where he came off the bench. He played 23 minutes. He only had 4 field goal attempts. He had 4 points, 9 rebounds, and 1 assist. Came in way under this point, rebounds and assists. And that was a game where Boston had their full lineup and Milwaukee had their full lineup. And kind of the big loser on the Marcus Smart under, Bobby Portis under, and don't be surprised if this game goes under as well.
Goes under after a big over for the Bucks yesterday. That was against an Indiana Pacers team, so it will be a little bit harder. And given the fact that Milwaukee is the best defense in the NBA, how about Drew Holiday, Andy? Would you eye a player prop for him? His line's at 17 and a half. Holiday had 51 points yesterday against a pretty crappy Pacers team, but nonetheless, insane play for Drew Holiday this season.
Well, Megan, be careful when you're insulting my Indiana Pacers. At least give the
I'm
caveat
sorry,
that they're
Andy,
trying to play bad. They
but they're
want to play bad. It was
trying.
a
But
perfect
why are
game
they
plan.
trying to play bad, Andy? Because they weren't good.
Well, when you when you're just not playing any of your good players, yeah, that like. I tend to go under on these big players who have these crazy point games. I mean, 20 of 30 from the field, 8 of 10 from free throws, 3 of 6 from 3 pointers, 51 points. I actually liked his 8 rebounds and 8 assists more. I would say if you're going to take a Drew Holiday over, you would look at his rebounds and assists. I just get nervous when a guy is coming off of a 50-point game. Someone that normally is nowhere near, even 30 points. So that being said, he's so good and he's having, one of his best years. I can't tell you to not take an over, but I just get a little nervous when I see a 51-point game and what's he going to do. But he's going to be playing a ton of minutes. I like his rebounds and assists over for anything with Holiday.
Fair enough. I will shy away from it, even though it is intriguing. Andy Lang, NBA breakdown, prop god. Before we switch over, I want to ask you about the one other game on the slate. We have the Pelicans and Nuggets, two teams in the West. Pelicans fighting for a playoff spot. They've been on a little bit of a run. They did just lose against the Warriors, but before that, they're starting to make some noise. Currently sitting ninth in the West. The Nuggets are top in the Western Conference. Do you have any thoughts or leans in that one?
Well, I think we're kind of waiting to see what Jokic does. He's technically listed as a game time decision. So when you have someone like Jokic, it's kind of me. All bets are off for this game. I would not blame you for going Brandon Ingram over his points. And if Jokic does not play, Valanciunas has been money on his rebounds category as well as rebounds and assists. They've had him at 12 and a half, and he's been sailing over that total. So Jokic doesn't play, green light on Valanciunas. But again, as with most of these NBA plays, especially as the season's winding down, you just got to wait. And sometimes you got to wait like a half hour before tip off to know exactly who's playing. So those are my leans in that one. But without the official Jokic status, I can't give anything definite.
All right, and before one more NBA question, before we let you go on this subject, any futures? I always ask about futures, and I know it's not traditionally the best way to bet, but it's always fun for me. So do you have something you're at least eyeing in the futures market?
I think the Grizzlies are a little bit underrated. Without Steven Adams, they had that huge losing streak, and then John Morant has his issue, and then I think you might be able to still get a little bit of the buy low. Obviously, when John Morant was out, the world was falling and the sky was falling on the Memphis Grizzlies. This team has a lot of talent, and before the Steven Adams injury, this was one of the best teams in the league. So year after year, we see some of these teams that peak as the playoffs are starting. I think the Grizzlies could be one of those. And when you take a future on a team like the Memphis Grizzlies to win the title or to win the West, what you're really trying to do is set yourself up to hedge if they do make it out of the first round. There's different ways that you can hedge some of these futures. So if you want to take Memphis to win the Western Conference, if they do make it to the round before that, you can just take the other team. I think the Grizzlies are priced a little bit too low. That being said, I'm not a futures better. I don't normally bet it with my own money. So if I'm not playing with my own money, I can't really recommend it. But I do have my eyes on those Grizzlies to do well in the playoffs.
But it's always fun. I like Memphis too. I have a little bit of an eye on the Minnesota Timberwolves. They've been hot as of late. Ralph Michaels is going to join us, Andy, before we switch to MMA. He wants to talk a little data, that is, on the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks. We've got the prop god and the trends god joining together. Let's talk a little Celtics Bucks action. Ralph, what do you have for us?
Andy and Megan, I just want to quantify something you said, Andy. And I was just on the NBA show Joe Ranieri was hosting with Dwayne and Ronald Cabang. You talked about this being a playoff type game. So when you quantify a playoff game, I took the elite teams in the NBA with a win percentage of 65% or higher in the second half of the season. So right now you're talking the Nuggets, the Grizzlies were there for a while, Boston, Philly, and Milwaukee. That's it. But those teams since 2014 have gone 28 overs and 47 unders. So 62.7% to the under. And when the team was a home favorite like Milwaukee, they've gone 68.5% to the under. So that's just quantifying what you said. So teams with win percentages of 65% or higher facing each other in the second half of the season, almost 70% to the under in that situation.
And that's always a good trend. This is where we love to see where the numbers make it make sense. Andy Lang, any final thoughts on Celtics Bucks?
I mean, Ralph's the best for a reason. So I was able to crunch those numbers and get those in. So yeah, these games they have such a high level of intensity, but those numbers can't lie. I mean, almost 63% on that stat Ralph gave. If you can hit 63% on a trend, whew, you'll your bankroll will be thanking you for sure.
Ralph Michaels, thank you for joining us. We always appreciate your trends and your data. He will be joining us in just a bit to break down some more around the NBA and maybe some NHL as well. Andy Lang, you have a couple bets in the MMA this weekend. No UFC, but you've got a bet on PFL. You have 4% play up for Bellator. What are you looking at in MMA?
Yeah, just because there's no UFC doesn't mean we can't make some good money off of the combat sports. So Bellator and PFL events are this weekend, and I do have a 4% play up, and we have done really, really good, particularly in PFL. So let's take some fights I expect to get over real quick. We don't have time to be messing around with these fights that go the distance. Let's take two fights under 1.5 rounds. Bryce Meredith and Brandon Carrillo in Bellator, and also in Bellator, Lucas Brennan versus Josh San Diego. Both Bryce Meredith and Lucas Brennan are unbelievably good wrestlers and submission artists. They can take their opponents down and finish them with ease, especially Lucas Brennan. Lucas Brennan likes trying new chokes in Bellator. He wants to try and end fights with unique chokes that nobody has ever seen. So that's the kind of finisher that he is. And Bryce Meredith is next level. The two guys that they're fighting, we call them Megan tomato cans. These are cans that are brought in basically to give highlight finishes for the other fighters. So Brandon Carrillo and Josh San Diego, not very good professional fighters. Carrillo's only had one professional fight, and if you watch that fight, the ring looked like it was in like a storage facility with some fold out chairs for people to sit on. That was his professional fight. So I'm going to parlay both of them to get around even money. I would play this down to minus 120. So look for both of these under 1.5 rounds. Bryce Meredith and Brandon Carrillo and Lucas Brennan and Josh San Diego. Parlay those for a really good payday.
Andy Lang plus 115 units in 2023. 5% plays up at wagertalk.com. Make sure you guys all go and check him out. Andy Lang, we appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
You too, Megan. Thanks.
Next up, we are going to bring back Ralph Michaels to talk some more trends, data, stats, all of the above, NBA action, NHL, and most importantly, MLB's back. Let's talk some baseball. Ralph Michaels joining us right now. Feel free to head over to the YouTube live comments, get your questions in, even if it's just from a general betting perspective. Ralph is the guy that you want to ask if you want to just start getting into betting, anything that you have for him. Ralph, you've been very successful as of late, and right now you've got something free, amazing, and MLB oriented up for your clients. What's going on at wagertalk.com?
The Gold Sheet Wager Talk MLB Guide is a great way to get started on the season. Even though the season has started, we break down every roster, who's back, who's returning, who's gone, where did they go. They're color coded in red if they're gone, so you can see the pitcher rotations, you can see the lineups. There's 68 statistical data points, money line records, run line records, and over/under records for every MLB team the last 2 years. Couple Wager Talk, SportsMemo, and Gold Sheet writers give you conference previews or some futures as well. So I start the season in the MLB very slow. I don't pretend to be an expert in the MLB. I put so much time and effort into basketball. When MLB gets around, I start slow, learn the teams as we go along. So I got off to a 2-0 start, so I might as well just quit and be 100% for this MLB year.
Right. That sounds like a good plan to me. You are an expert in college basketball, NBA, and plenty of sports. And we've got a question coming in the comments from Ghosted. He said, are we feeling another UConn easy win and cover in this next game in the Final Four?
You know, UConn to me is by far the most underseeded team. They were a 4 seed. And when you ask people who is the most prolific statistical analysis site, and it's Ken Palm for 90% of the people. Ken Palm had UConn ranked number 4 when March Madness started. Not a 4 seed, the number 4 team in the country. UConn is now the number 1 team. When I look at UConn on paper, yes, they're the better team. I would lay this price, but I will not have a play on this game. I gave an opinion out on the over on bet on it. Miami has passed the eye test. What they did, shooting over 50% against Houston and Texas, impressed the hell out of me. You look at the guards they have with Wong and the Kansas State transfer. When you have 2 guards like that can take over a game, you're never out of the game. So if you said you have to pick a team with the spread, I would pick UConn, but nowhere near even a best bet opinion in that game. I'm going to watch and enjoy it, and I have a slight opinion on the over in that matchup.
UConn versus Miami Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Or no, that's the second game. So 9 p.m. Eastern. UConn 5.5-point favorite. Then Florida Atlantic, San Diego State. That's going to start us off for our March Madness Final Four. Again, reminder to join us Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking all March Madness. I can almost guarantee that's going to be the top discussion on the slate as the day begins. Ralph, let's talk some NBA action. Only 2 games on the slate. One game you're eyeing, New Orleans Pelicans at Denver Nuggets. Tip off at 10 Eastern. Nuggets minus 5.5, total 226.5. And Jokic is a game time decision. Zion officially ruled out. Pelicans are on a roll. They've won 4 of their last 5, and they've covered 5 of their last 6. What are you looking at in this matchup out in Denver?
Well, one important thing to remember is this. Denver is going to be the number 1 seed. Durant comes back for Phoenix, and they play tomorrow night, and Phoenix is likely going to be the 4 seed. So I don't know how much effort you put into this game because you are playing potentially your second round opponent tomorrow with no rest. With that said, I want to throw out a stat. I'm going to give you a play on the under. But I also just want to give you a stat on the side. This does not mean I'm telling you to bet this side, but the Pelicans, you said, have been on a good run. In fact, they've been the number 1 defensive rated team since the All-Star break. They're playing great defense. A bunch of secondary guys missing Williamson the most of the year, but they are locking it down on defense. But when they play a team with a winning record and they're a dog of 3 or more, like they are tonight, they are only 1-20 straight up, Megan, and they're only 3-17-1 against the spread. That is 15%. So now you're playing your third game in 4 night, the elite team in the Western Conference. That right there would have me leaning with the Nuggets. But like I said, let me talk about the total. This is an actual client release that I had for sale today, as is my NHL game, which I'll get to in a minute. I do the NBA Wager Talk stat sheet on my Twitter page at CalSportsLV, and I put a best bet on there. This was the best bet there. And if you look over the last 2 weeks, these teams are combined 1-12 over under and 1-6 over under when you're looking at the home away splits. New Orleans, 3-12 over under their last 15 games, and 7 of their last 8 road games have gone under as well. Pelicans allowing 45% shooting the last 5 games. That's a fantastic number being on the West Coast road trip. And you look at the Nuggets, 0-6 over under since March 16th. And we talk angles here, we talk trends, we talk ATS numbers. If you have an ATS record of 0-6 and there's an average margin of cover or 1 or 2, there's some flexibility in there where a made basket or a missed basket may made that record 2-4. The Nuggets actually in the last 6 games going under by 7 points per game, making this a very strong play. Again, Jokic being out actually makes the play even better. I gave it out at 220, 227.5. It's actually 226.5. Still fine for me to suggest as a play.
Ralph says under 226.5 for the Pelicans versus Nuggets. Nuggets sit top in the West. Pelicans looking for that playoff push. They're ninth in the West. Bigger win, bigger motivation for this New Orleans team who needs to get it done. Ralph, let's switch over to actually, before we go into your NHL play, we've got some love in the comments. Vegas has already been saying they love the pin, and now they're saying, how are we feeling about the MLB season, Ralph? Should I stick to first 5 innings bets when the aces are on mound, or should I just say F it? LOL.
Well, the way the bullpens are playing, for whoever asked that question, we had this conversation before coming on the show. I can tell you this. I can just give you my personal advice. And again, baseball is one of my weakest sports. It's not that I don't put the work in. I just, you have to enjoy a sport to a degree to start putting out a lot of volume in it. I tend to follow certain plays, certain situations. I watch the Guardians all the time. So, I'm more of an American League player, but I'm still very stat oriented and look at situations. When I'm playing a favorite or the under, I am using first 80% of the time. If I am playing against a team with a horrible bullpen, I may go full game. If I'm playing an over, I tend to go full game. So again, you have to look where the value is.
Oh, we lost Ralph. There we go. We got
You
you
know
back,
what,
Ralph.
Megan? You're going to have to tell me where I got cut off.
You said,
I'll just recap quickly.
cool.
Again, 80% of my MLB plays, if I have a side play, it's first 5. Unders are first 5. And at the other 20%, if I'm using the over and they're playing a bad bullpen, I may use full game. But I do think the first 5 is the way to go with baseball the way it is. Again, there are some elite bullpens that you don't mind taking down the stretch, especially with rested relievers. If your starter went the day before, I'm much more apt not to use it if he's gone 2 or 3 days later in the season. So again, my bit of advice is that.
And reminder to all those who are joining now, Ralph Michaels has a free Wager Talk MLB guide up at wagertalk.com. WT.buzz/RM is where you can find it. I promise this isn't going to be an MLB hate show. I'm seeing some discouraging things in the YouTube live comments about baseball, but we're going to make it fun. For now, we switch over to NHL. Ralph, the St. Louis Blues at Chicago Blackhawks puck drop at 8:35 Eastern. The Blues are minus 146 on the money line. Totals at 6.5. Chicago's lost the last 6 games, and they put up just a total of 7 goals during that stint. St. Louis had a big overtime win against Vancouver the other day. What are you eyeing in this one?
Well, this St. Louis team made quite a transition during the trade deadlines. And, you look at teams that pick up players, it takes a few games to get your lines back in sync and having players learn how to play each other. Well, they picked up 3 key players in midseason, Rana Blias and Kapanen. Those 3 players have scored 22 goals and had 15 assists in a combined 50 starts. Those are amazing numbers, 37 points and 50 starts. You have St. Louis now 9-4. Their last 13 games is a pick or a small favorite, including 3 straight road wins. St. Louis is 20-8 overall as a small favorite, and they are averaging 3.8 goals per game. The offense is clicking. You mentioned the Blackhawks with 6 straight losses. Not only have they lost 6 straight, Megan, you mentioned their point total. The average score in those 6 games, 4.3 to 1.2. So they're getting out goaled by 3.1 goals per game. It's not even close. And you have to remember in the NHL, those division games are so important. When those division foes play the Blackhawks, they do not look past them. You're not looking past the division foe. Chicago 4-13 the last 17 division games. So this again was an actual client release that I had for sale at WagerTalk.com.
Ralph Michaels, always appreciate you with the trends, the angles, the stats. That's why we love you here at Wager Talk TV. And make sure you guys go and check out his free Wager Talk MLB guide up at wagertalk.com, wt.buzz/RM. Ralph, enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Our last guest for today's show here at Last Call is going to be Skee Profit. He bets NHL, he bets NBA, and we are going to break down both of the NBA games on the slate for tonight. So, reminder, any last minute bets, any last minute questions, head over right now to the YouTube live comments and we'll get Skee's thoughts. Skee, thank you very much for joining us. You've been over 70% on an all sports run, 4-0 in NHL this season, 5% play in NHL up tonight. What can we find and where can we find you at wagertalk.com?
Yeah, things have been rolling pretty good for me right now. Like you mentioned, I do have my top play in the NHL available at wagertalk.com, and I've made 4 plays in the NBA as well for tonight, along with the NIT selection in college basketball. So a lot of things going for tonight. And while I was sitting here watching the guys talk, I was looking into a play that I really like for tomorrow. It's a 19-1 league-wide situation that's active, and it's going to be a top play for NBA that's also up and available. So a lot of things that you can find on my page, and I'll talk about a couple of NBA games that I like tonight with you.
Well, the slate gets bigger for NBA tomorrow night, but there's 2 on the board for this evening. We'll start with the big teams out east: Boston Celtics at Milwaukee Bucks. We got Andy's thoughts on this. Tip off is at 10. What is it? At 7:30 Eastern, so not too far from now. Bucks minus 2.5. The total's at 237.5. It opened at 236. Andy looked at an under here a little bit. I can't see a way to not bet the over. The Celtics and the Bucks have averaged a combined 246.8 points in the last 12 games. The Bucks put up 149 points yesterday against this Pacers team, but something tells me you're looking somewhere else in this matchup.
Yeah, the pace that these teams play at does make it scary, along with, like you said, how both of these teams are scoring. But this game should be a little bit different. And I think I heard Ralph maybe mention a similar angle. I'm looking when 2 elite teams, and when I say that, I mean teams with the win percentage greater than 60, when they're playing with a high total. And for me, I'm saying greater than or equal to 234. This goes all the way back to 2016. It says they are 20-7 to the under. That's about a little bit above 74%. And that just means that this is more of a playoff atmosphere type of game. And when I think like that, that means defense. So I like all of those things. Milwaukee's on a back-to-back so far this season. They're 8-3 to the under in that situation. The Celtics are also 23-16 to the under on the road. So I like all of those things. I did also see that Robert Williams just recently, while we're doing the show, has been rolled in. He's a big difference maker as far as the defense for the Celtics goes and rim protection. So everything lines up to me for less points in this one. We can talk about this game a little bit more. I have something about to say about Andy's prop. I wish he was still here. I could ask him a question and also the side.
Do we have Andy still on? If we do, we'll bring him in. But okay, Andy's gone. But let's talk a little player prop ski. How do you feel about Marcus Smart? I know Andy Lang was eyeing him. Any other players that you're going to be targeting in this Celtics Bucks game?
Yeah, that's the main one. You nailed it. That's the one I feel a little bit different. I know he probably took the PRA. I joined a little bit late. I think you should stay away from the assists. I think if you like a Marcus Smart under, you want to look at his points because the last five times that he's played Milwaukee, he's cleared 6+ assists, and his line is only at 4.5 for tonight. I think he averages above 6 assists as well on the season. So I agree with his thought process that he's playing a big defensive guard. He's going to stop him from scoring. He's not necessarily going to stop him from dishing the ball. So I think Marcus Smart assists are a good look, and probably play his points under if you like the way that Andy was talking about.
What about Drew Holiday? I asked Andy about this one. His line's at 17 and a half right now. He had 51 points against the Pacers last night. What's your thoughts on Holiday here?
Well, he had a lot easier matchup versus the Pacers. Pacers can't really stop anybody. I know they're giving up north of 124 points per game, and I mean you're going up against a defensive player of the year, right? And Marcus Smart, so not an easy matchup for him either. I would probably stay away from Drew points, especially on a back to back. I would maybe look more towards Giannis or somebody else.
Let's switch over to the second game on the slate that is out west. We have New Orleans Pelicans at Denver Nuggets. Jokic still questionable. Zion is out. New Orleans have a little bit more motivation trying to make that playoff push. Denver is the top seed in the West. Pelicans sit at ninth, and he leans in this one out in Denver.
Yeah, well, I played this game a couple different ways, and I agree with Ralph. First of all, I agree with his thought process on the under. He gave you all the trends. They're 12-1 combined the last 2 weeks of the under, and neither one of them are averaging close to the number that they're asked to get to today. You also potentially get the bonus of Jokic sitting out, and that would also help with an under. And I don't think he plays here. Just like he
Yeah.
mentioned, they have the Suns on deck for tomorrow, and that's a game that they'll want to send a statement. Same way, Boston is looking to send a statement to Milwaukee. So in a game like this, where Denver's pretty much locked up that one seed versus a hungry Pelicans team, they can't afford. I mean, they were getting 6.5 points when I got involved in this game. They're still getting 5.5. I think they can't afford to lose, let alone just try to cover. So I think they're live to win this game just because they're the more motivated team. They've been the team the last 5 games who's playing the better defense. They're the number one defensive rated team, matter of fact, and they've been a better rebounding team as well. So if you're doing those two things better than the other team, if you're the healthier team, because we think Jokic is going to be out, I think everything lines up to take the Pelicans here. Plus, and I'm not mad at anybody who wants to sprinkle.
A lot at stake for this Pelicans team with a very competitive Western Conference. They're looking to make that final push. Hey, Ski, how do we feel about the Lakers making the playoffs? Minus 218 on FanDuel for them to make it to the postseason.
I would say you're a little bit late. They're absolutely going to make the playoffs. You see, they're
All
playing with
right.
some pride now. They've gotten LeBron back. I think Lakers are in there for sure.
Are you taking any futures bets for NBA at all besides playoffs? Any conference bets at all?
How about taking futures right now? No, but I'll give you my thoughts. I think the Bucks are the best team in the East, and it's been that way for a while. I did bet them before the season started. As far as the West is concerned, I think you throw away the Clippers, you throw away the Grizzlies because they're just a little bit too young still, and I think the teams that are live are Lakers, Nuggets, and can't even say Mavericks anymore. So Lakers and Nuggets, I'll choose between them.
All right, one last question before we let you go. Jokic, Embiid, or other for MVP?
Give me Jokic. The only thing he has going against him is he's already won the past 2 seasons. I mean, you can't deny he's averaging a triple double. Last Everybody we've seen who averages a triple double gets the MVP, and he's pretty much available for every game. He's not ducking games. He's not ducking matchups like Joel Embiid. He's not crying to the media and not going out there and performing. So I roll with Jokic to get the MVP.
I'll back that up, Ski. We appreciate you joining us here at Wager Talk's Last Call. You have a 5% play up for NHL 4-0 in NHL this season. You're on a 70% all sports run. We appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate you.
That'll wrap up today's episode of Last Call here at Wager Talk TV. We're back Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Big day in college basketball. The Final Four begins. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you come prepared with your questions ready. We need to see this chat room blowing up a little bit more. And stay tuned because there's actually going to be a fun segment that we're adding to the show in Last Call where it gets you even more involved. We'll see you next time here at Wager Talk Last Call.